Now, Star Wars is undeniably one of the most successful franchises in the history of not only cinema, but pop culture as a whole. And though the series has created many lifelong memories for fans, both young and old, it's no secret, of course, that George Lucas has used modern technology to revise the earlier Star Wars films over the last 25 years. And rather than continue to offer both the original, untouched versions and the newer editions, Lucas has basically done away with what came before. So let's take a look at them, weirdly enough, today. As I'm Jules, this is WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 Star Wars moments you'll never see again. Number 10. Han shoots first. A New Hope. Let's kick things off with the single most infamous change instituted by George Lucas across the entire Star Wars franchise. In the original version of A New Hope, Han Solo memorably guns down bounty hunter Greedo in the Mos Eisley Cantina, an act which demonstrates his cunning ruthlessness, taking out a threat before said threat can get the drop on him. Yet for the 1997 special edition of the film, Lucas made the decision to digitally alter the scene, showing Greedo firing at Han first before Han awkwardly dodges it and fires back at him, killing him. Fans argued that this diminished Han's character arc over the course of the original trilogy, softening his personality as originally presented, while Lucas has since maintained that he never intended to portray Han as a cold-blooded killer. Though the scene has received mild revisions in subsequent home video releases, Han shooting first has never been restored to any version of A New Hope, and given Lucas's passionate stance on Han's rules of engagement, it surely never will be. Number 9. Sebastian Shaw's Anakin Force Ghost. Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi of course concludes with a triumphant rebel celebration where Luke notices the Force spirits of Obi-Wan, Yoda and Anakin Skywalker observing nearby. In the original release, the Anakin Force Ghost was portrayed by Sebastian Shaw, who also portrayed Anakin during his iconic unmasking scene earlier on in the film. But for the 2004 special edition re-release, Lucas re-edited the scene to replace Shaw with Hayden Christensen, who of course played a younger Anakin in the prequel trilogy. While the logic here is at least understandable that Lucas wanted to create a greater sense of visual continuity between the prequels and the original trilogy, does it even make sense to have Anakin's forced ghost resemble his younger self? Some attempt to explain this away by suggesting that Anakin truly died when he became Vader, but it's a bit of a stretch. And then there are those who simply object to Hayden Christensen being injected into the original films in any form on pure principle. Number 8. The Proto-Palpatine Hologram. The Empire Strikes Back. Now here's a change that actually has its fair share of supporters, even if some would prefer that Lucas simply left the original trilogy alone. In The Empire Strikes Back, Emperor Palpatine makes his first appearance in the series via hologram, though at the time of the film, Ian McDiarmid hadn't yet been cast in the part in earnest, and so the cameo was physically portrayed by Marjorie Eaton under heavy layers of makeup, complete with chimpanzee eyes superimposed over the eye sockets, while the voice was provided by Clive Revill. From the 2004 special edition onwards, however, Eaton and Revell's work has been deleted, with the hologram footage being reshot with Ian McDiarmid in place, with alterations also being made to the original dialogue. Again, the effort to create visual continuity throughout the series makes sense, and the original Palpatine makeup doesn't exactly look great, yet many fans argue that jettisoning Eaton and Revell's work from the franchise is rather cruel and unnecessary. Plus, changing the original dialogue added nothing worthwhile to the scene. Number 7. Puppet Yoda. The Phantom Menace. Now here's another change that's actually a little bit less controversial than it might seem at first. If you saw The Phantom Menace in the cinema or watched the earlier home video releases, Yoda was actually portrayed as a physical puppet for the most part, but dissatisfied with the results, Lucas opted to replace him with a digital double for the 2011 Blu-ray release. It's an interesting choice, though Star Wars fans generally do bang the drum for the original charming puppet Yoda. In the case of The Phantom Menace, the puppet really doesn't seem up to snuff, and clashes harshly with the film's pervasively digital aesthetic. As such, while not everybody loves the CGI Yoda throughout the prequels, this is one alteration which isn't exactly infuriating, even though many surely wish the puppet version was still readily available without seeking out a 20-year-old DVD. Number 6. Lapti Neck and Yub-Nub. Return of the Jedi. Two majorly involved changes that Lucas made to Return of the Jedi continue to infuriate fans to this very day. The film's initial release included 2 songs which were ultimately replaced in more recent versions. Firstly, in Jabba the Hutt's palace, the Max Rebo Band and Cy Snootles perform a song called Lapti Neck, which Lucas swapped out for the more contemporary yet obnoxious Jedi Rocks. Lucas didn't stop there though. He also replaced the puppet of Cy Snootles with an obnoxiously cartoonish CGI equivalent, and added 9 more members to the Max Rebo Rainbow Band. And secondly, there's the climactic Rebel Celebration, which was originally scored to the song Yub Nub, but was later replaced with a new John Williams track entitled Victory Celebration. While the original songs aren't exactly masterpieces by any metric, they do hold a special place in the hearts of fans who grew up with Return of the Jedi, and so replacing them with more modern music only undermined that initial feeling. Sadly, CGI-sized Snootles is here to stay. Number 5. Boba Fett's original voice, The Empire Strikes Back. The Empire Strikes Back, of course, introduced audiences to bounty hunter Boba Fett, and until the 2004 special edition, Fett was voiced with acid-tongue delight by Jason Wingreen. But in order to reflect the prequel revelation that Boba was a clone of Jango Fett, Lucas had Morrison record Wingreen's original lines and then plug them into the 2004 re-release. As much as we all love Morrison and his portrayals of both Jango and Boba Fett, there's just no contest between him and Wingreen. Listening to the two side by side, Wingreen's line readings are imbued with a greater sense of menace and mystery that truly made the audience want to know more about this masked man. Morrison's delivery, on the other hand, sounds weirdly casual and off the cuff, like Lucas just had Morrison record a single take and decided, yeah, that's good enough. Number 4. Vader silently betrays Palpatine, Return of the Jedi. Here's a change that really pissed off a lot of fans, because it basically dilutes the intensity of one of the series' most iconic moments and arguably even renders it unintentionally comical. Originally in Return of the Jedi, Darth Vader silently betrays Emperor Palpatine and throws him to his death, but seemingly because Lucas felt the scene needed to spell every emotional beat out for the audience, he added some extra vocalizations to it. For the 2011 Blu-ray release, Lucas added Vader saying "no" as he watches Palpatine torture Luke with Force lightning, and then letting out a more prolonged "no" as he picks Palpatine up. For one, it just makes everyone remember Vader's laughable "no" from Revenge of the Sith, and needlessly spells out Vader's emotions, which are already made perfectly clear by his body language and, his actions. It's an incredibly awkward addition that shows a lack of faith in the audience to intuit basic, obvious emotions, and surely makes fans the world over cringe every time they're forced to endure it. Number 3. The Victory Celebration without Gungans, Return of the Jedi. Even with the changes made to its music throughout the years, Return of the Jedi's Rebel Celebration is an undeniably triumphant cinematic moment, right? Well, George Lucas made an arguably even more egregious change to the scene for the 2004 special edition, when he decided to add the thing in that every Star Wars fan surely wanted to see included in this scene: Gungans. In yet another attempt to tie the prequels and original films together, the celebration montage is extended to show a giant celebration in Naboo, complete with Gungans visible atop a building as one of them screams ecstatically, "Weezer free." Given that the Gungans remain one of the most divisive aspects of the prequels, throwing them into the originals where they had no presence previously was always going to ruffle a lot of feathers. Had they simply been a silent part of the celebrations, it would have been fine enough, yet the moment we hear one of them bleating from the rooftops, we're instantly pulled out of the euphoric moment and reminded of just how damn annoying Jar Jar Binks truly was. Number 2. The creepier Sarlacc design, Return of the Jedi. Another divisive change Lucas made for the special edition release of Return of the Jedi was digitally altering the Sarlacc pit from its original design, adding in CGI tentacles, a beak, and a tongue. Yet this ultimately reeks of over-design that gives far too much away. As originally presented in the movie, the Sarlacc was made all the more terrifying in its ambiguity and mystery, but by making it seem more recognizably animalistic through its physiology, the Sarlacc was too made considerably less intimidating. Lucas has stated that he revised the design to make the Sarlacc seem more alive, but wasn't that precisely what made the Sarlacc so damn creepy in the original version of Return of the Jedi? By making it more obvious and cartoonish, much of that initial cosmic horror vibe was aggressively ripped away. And number 1, the original Mos Eisley introduction, A New Hope. There are few Star Wars scenes more distinctive, memorable, or straight-up iconic than the introduction to Mos Eisley, and yet George Lucas evidently wasn't entirely happy with how it had initially panned out, so decided to make it busier for the special edition re-release. While we'll give Lucas some minor credit for cleaning up some shots that looked a little scratchy in the original cut, and adding in some not all that bad establishing shots of the area, Lucas just couldn't resist but drown Mos Eisley in garish, overbaked CGI chaos. In an attempt to make Mos Eisley seem like a more bustling place, Lucas added new digital creatures to many shots whilst also using VFX to extend the backgrounds. The most egregious change occurs when Luke, Obi-Wan, C-3PO and R2-D2 are stopped by stormtroopers and Obi-Wan performs the Jedi mind trick. For reasons that will never become clear, a gigantic CGI Ronto walks in front of the frame for several seconds, obscuring our view of the scene in a misguided attempt to make it seem more interesting. CGI is a wonderful tool in the right hands, but as Lucas has proven so often, it can also be a source of frustration and even destruction when wielded without due diligence. And there we go, my friends. Those were 10 Star Wars moments you'll never see again. I hope that you enjoyed that, and please let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. As always, I've been Jules, and you can go follow me over on Instagram at RetroJ, but the O is a 0. Hope to see you over there, my friends. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. Even though we discussed about Star Wars moments you'll never see again, at the end of my videos, you will always hear this same thing, and that is a message of positivity for you, the listener, because I wish you nothing but the best. I wish you love, happiness, and success, because you're a massive ledge and you deserve all of those things, alright? Don't let anything or anyone else tell you otherwise. As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.